Issue 73. We start out with the story by Mark Millar, a writer since the early days, and since it has Sonic reading fan mail be meta right away, maybe he's like the Mike Gallagher of this comic. I mean, the fan mail comic isn't doomed to be too meta from the start. I'm sure Sonic would get fan mail in universe, but of course Tails doesn't get any, as Sonic tells him with a smirk, calling him Pixel Brain with no sympathy whatsoever for him. Sonic could have at least tried to pretend he had a fan letter to him, like erasing the word Sonic and writing Tails in its place. That could have been a sweet brotherly moment. Tails says that if he does something brave and risky, people will respect him, which gets Sonic worried because he has no faith in him. We see Tails fly next to a bird, saying that he would get some people's respect if he cleaned up Casino Night Zone. The bird says, "More like a few broken bones, you dweeb." That's how little respect Tails gets. Which makes sense considering he's been portrayed as a brainless moron who barely gets to do anything useful. But still, you'd think the citizens would respect him for being able to fly. Rather than Tails reacting at all to the hurtful insult, he confronts Eggman and his troopers, with Eggman saying that he was looking for a Mobian to try out his spinball murder machine, as he puts it. The same bird who insulted Tails tells Sonic that he's been taken hostage in Casino Night Zone, calling Tails that dumb fox after Sonic called Tails a furball. I mean, I guess I don't hate Tails being insulted and disrespected all the time, because at least it's a very fresh new take on him for a comic. But there's no excuse for making him a useless idiot. Sonic runs past some robots and finds Tails tied to a trap above a giant pinball machine, even though he's been shown to have been capable of destroying robot troopers before. And he apologizes, blaming himself for what happened. He better get to do something brave and useful in this issue, or the whole point of the story will just be, "Ha ha, what an idiot Tails is thinking he could be a hero." After Sonic gets into the trap and gets made all groggy, Tails out of complete nowhere gets out of the ropes he was tied up in and jumps on top of the ball mead to go after him and Sonic. I don't find this satisfying because it makes no sense that Tails could have gotten free of the ropes. If that was possible, why didn't he do it earlier? It tries to create the impression that the only way Tails could be useful was through a bullshit Deus Ex Machina. The ball explodes after Tails leads it to a certain place, with Sonic showing no faith in him, being worried the whole time, and the explosion destroys the entire pinball machine, while miraculously leaving Sonic and Tails alive and well. Again, this makes no sense. Eggman lampshades that he logically should have wiped out Tails when he had the chance, and the story ends completely unsatisfyingly, as rather than getting any fan mail, which would have been a heartwarming ending, Tails just gets a fine for an overdue library book. You might as well have had someone punch him in the face. Tails doesn't really get any respect or reason to be confident. But then I think about how Pontac and Graft made me hate Tails so much by going in the opposite direction with them, and I find it hard to feel that sorry for him. In the next story, after Knuckles had cut the raw replacement Master Emerald into shape, he transfers all of the power to it. Suddenly, the robot head tries to shoot a laser at him because it's not deactivated and dead for some reason after all this time, and Knuckles thinks that the robot's mad at its power being drained. Knuckles wishes that Sonic was here to make it across the floor without being hit by a laser, and he digs through the ceiling above the robot head to fall on top of it, worries about the beam potentially hitting an emerald, and gets thrown off it right away. The robot head says robotically that its energy level is too low to generate a power beam. Knuckles is surprised at it being able to talk, calling it a conscious being. The robot head says that its energy level is critical and it'll terminate in 30 seconds. Knuckles panics about that happening to an evil robot who tried to kill him, and he thinks that he's harmless now and he could break the connections before he'd shut down. He does so and asks, "Robot, are you alright?" That's sweet. The robot head says that his energy levels have stabilized and he's running on minimum power requirements. The robot head tells Knuckles that Zachary reprogrammed him to only serve him, but the energy drain has now removed that programming. I guess it does make sense, programming is just electricity and the energy drain might have drained away that electricity. Knuckles says that he could use the equipment in the Chaos Chamber to examine the robot's memory banks for a clue to where the echidnas are. Then he looks over at a bunch of boulders and steam and says that first he'll need to make a few repairs. In the next story, a text box says that there's still some areas of Mobius untouched by the polluting influence of Eggman, even by this point apparently. And Tails gets approached by Badniks in the once peaceful Spring Flower Zone and complains about how he had wanted to take an afternoon off. He's talking as if he's constantly busy doing stuff for the freedom fighters when he really isn't. He avoids the lasers and destroys Badnik by punching him with both his fists, and then he flies around watching the two badniks crash into each other, having all of the animals freed. As I wish that at least one of Tails' friends could have gotten to see that and vouch for him. Instead, they'll never believe him again. Then one of the animals, a little talking bear, cries that he's lost and he normally lived in Metropolis. Tails says that's dangerous and miles away and he might need Sonic. The bear grabs his tail, saying that he promised he'd help, so I guess he doesn't trust him to come back. After it's revealed the bear is called Tantrum by everyone, he probably isn't liked by his parents much. Tails grabs his hand, offering to fly him home, and then he sees a bullet hit a flower and he gets threatened by a bounty hunter who just reckons that Eggman would pay a fortune for him. He's pretty naive to just assume Eggman would reward him at all. Tails and Tantrum just stand there, not even trying to run away or push him over, and they only survive because it turns out Not Fang is out of bullets. Tantrum pulls Tails away, and Not Fang tries to shoot at them with a laser blaster as they run away. Tails tells the bear to keep running while he'll distract the fire, but the bear falls into a pothole out of nowhere and Tails goes into it after him after being told that would be a dumb idea somehow. I guess the guy was trying to discourage him from doing that to escape him. The first story was by Mark Miller and was completely unsatisfying how Tails did something useful because it made no sense. He got free of the ropes in the pinball machine for no reason, and somehow when he gets the ball to explode, it leaves only him and Sonic intact, instead of killing them both in the trap. It feels arbitrary and clumsy, and he doesn't even get any fan mail at the end. What a real punch in the face. I would totally understand if Tails was very jealous of Sonic for having fan mail and he never does. We even see a talking bird call him a dweeb and say he'll just get broken bones for trying to be useful. So it seems like he's taking on the role of Antoine as the butt monkey, only his personality only has the cowardice in common with them. Antoine did it better because at least he was annoying at his worst, so he kind of deserved it back then, but Tails doesn't. The second story, by Nigel Kitching, has Knuckles discover that the robot head replacing the Master Emerald is alive, as he panics about his energy being drained and tries to shoot lasers, and the energy drain removed the programming that made him serve only Zachary by a huge coincidence. This leads Knuckles to save his life despite not knowing yet that he returned to being good, so I guess that's a big hero moment for him, and decides to scan his memory banks later for a clue about where his people might have gone. The third story by Lou Stringer was surprisingly a story arc, where after Tails defeats some badniks while frustratingly not having his friends witness it to get respect for him, an animal kid wants his help going back to his home in Metropolis, but out of nowhere a bounty hunter threatens them, and they fall into a random pothole. Well, that's better than a story that's just about Tails beating badniks. At least there's variety in what happened in the story.